Hello, Forgers, and welcome to Metasight, a podcast where we discuss SoulForge fusion mechanics, meta, and maneuvers. I'm your host, Ankh, and today we are kicking it off on the Shadows Over Solis spoiler season. I have a couple of cards to spoil for you all, so let's get right into it. So let's start off with the first of two cards we're going to spoil today. The first being Favor of the Swarm. So this is a spell that at level 1 reads, one of your creatures gets +3/+3, then attach this to it. And then it reads Augment. When one of your creatures comes into play adjacent to this, this gets +1/+1. So if you're not up to speed with the recent spoiler information that Stoneblade has provided, Augment is a new ability that allows you to attach either a spell or creature to another creature to give some sort of effect. In this case, the Augment ability will give the creature an ongoing effect where every time a creature comes in adjacent to it, it's going to get buffed. If we look at this card at level 2, it's a 5/5 bonus with 2/2 for the adjacent creatures coming into play. And then at stage 3 of this card, you get +7/+7 and +3/+3 for the Augment ability. This card is very much in the flavor of cards like Druid's Chant or Spike Carapace, where the creature is, you're basically playing a spell to buff a creature and getting some sort of minor side benefit. In the terms of this particular card, Favor of the Swarm, the creature you attach it to is not level gated. We have seen some cards spoiled so far that are level gated, in that you can't attach it to a creature that is of higher level than the spell itself. So this one is an interesting one, in that it gives the same number of stat buffs you'd expect for any other card of this sort of ilk. 3/3's fairly straight standard for level 1, 5/5 for level 2. 7/7's a little bit lower than normal, I think, for cards like this. But the fact that every time you play a creature going forward, it's going to continue to get buffed is where this card can really shine. That said, a lot of times you got to be very careful with cards like this that you don't get blown out. I'm curious to see how much spot removal is going to be in Shadows Over Solis. We know that every single card in the set is going to be new, so all the modifiers are new, all the creatures are new, all the spells are new. So we won't be seeing Dreadbolt exactly, we won't be seeing Botanimate exactly, but I'm sure there will be some creature removal to be on the lookout for. And when that is on the table, you have to be very careful about when you play a card like this. Generally, you want to play these cards shine off Forge, where you're able to catch a creature and have your creature survive by using this buff, and change a combat where you may have lost a creature and theirs would have survived into a combat where your creature survives and theirs does not. You've saved your card and negated one of theirs, and now they have to still deal with your creature on the board. And it's not like they can ignore the creature, because if they do, I mean, at the first level, +1/+1 is not gonna. It's gonna take a while for that to get out of hand. But once it gets up to the third level, where you're getting like 3/3 for every creature you play, spamming out minions next to the creature can really pump it up really fast. Similar to something like maybe not quite as powerful as like a kindred creature, but we do know that the repeated buff effects can spiral out of control really fast if they don't deal with it and they don't have a way to directly interact with the creature. Another mechanic we're aware of in the set is Blast, which is where a creature or a spell will deal damage to whatever creatures oppose it. So, like, for example, you have Blast 3. When that's played, it'll do 3 damage to the opposing creature or to the opposing player if the lane is empty. It also does some breakthrough damage as well. So this can help put that creature out of blast range with just 1 or 2 creature plays if you can line things up correctly. But again, anytime you have a spell like this where you're pumping a creature, do expect that the creature still may not survive more than 1 or 2 turns after the fact. But, in play, it's definitely one of those kinds of cards that can really swing combat and keep a high priority target on board for a while. Another use case for this would be to put it on like a defender creature that is opposed to while you're on Forge, so that it's difficult for them to deal damage to it, and that gives you more time to scale that the augmented creature before your opponent has a way to interact with it. And that basically can set you up pretty strong for following turns, especially if the set is light on that sort of unconditional removal. And most of the removal ends up being something like damage-based removal. So yeah, this is a pretty interesting effect. Augment is an interesting new ability. I would still tend to view these as similar effects like Druid's Chant or Spiked Carapace, where you're just getting sort of a creature buff and then sort of an ancillary benefit. And if you manage to get the extra +3/+3 from playing extra creatures, that's just sort of a side benefit. But really, it's meant to focus on the initial buff that you're getting on the creature. So that said, we do have a second card to spoil. This one is Utamon. So Utamon is a rare elemental creature, and it's a 6/5 at level 1, and it reads, while this is augmented, it can't be damaged by minions. So right off the bat, you get a pretty standard stat line, like this is just 1 point below curve, 6/6 being sort of on curve for a level 1 card. And it can just eat minions or sort of protect you from something like an Oak Father if you can get that augment onto it. At level 2, we get a 9/7, and while it's augmented, it can't be damaged by level 1 creatures. You get a 2-point stat penalty to its health. And then at level 3, you get a 13/12, and it can't be damaged by level 1 or 2 creatures. And that would generally include all minions as well, since minions don't go above level 2. So right off the bat, I mean, this card is decently statted. You're not losing much for the ability, but in order to make that ability work, you do have to have augments in your deck. And that, again, as we mentioned earlier with the Favor of the Swarm, can leave you vulnerable to blowouts if unconditional removal is available. But we have seen in other spoilers that, especially from the article that Stoneblade has posted, that there are creatures that you can replace with others that then attach as augments. So dropping an Utamon on one of those types of augment creatures can instantly put you in a very strong position, especially if you can line it up against a creature that shares that's within the level gate of either the level 1 or level 2 or minion gate there. So, you're not taking much of an opportunity cost with this card, though it is a little bit light statted and it only plays well with augments, which means that you're gonna have to hope that you have at least maybe like 2 augments in your deck natively for Utamon to have a significant impact on the gameplay over just another sort of vanilla creature. And the fact that this asks for augments means it's not going to be playing as well with set 1 through 3 decks, since augment is new to Shadows Over Solis. Now, given that augments are a new design space, we can expect that augments will continue in the future. As mentioned in the Stoneblade article, augments are much easier to design around than Exalts were. Exalts had much stricter design restrictions, so I think they're gonna move into the augment sort of space with spells rather than Exalt space going forward. We'll probably see 1 or 2 Exalts here and there, but this is one of those kinds of cards that'll probably be very future forward. And I think, yeah, it's a fine creature. I like it's got its little Utera symbol on its chest there. I'd be curious to see what it might look like in other factions. It'd be really cool if the Betrayer art, they changed that little watermark on it to other factions. That would be pretty neat. I don't anticipate that's going to be the case. We may actually see other elementals in the other factions that have that little logo. So that might be a little sneak peek on something to come. That'd be really, really cool flavor to add to this. But yeah, that's the 2 previews I have for you this week. Hope you all enjoyed, and I will catch you guys for the next episode of Metasight.